Alright, guys, it's the end of May, so I'm bringing you everything I have read this month. I've read 8 books this month, and we've got to mix a little bit of everything. Last month I had read, I don't remember, maybe like 5 Jim Thompson novels, and so I kind of wanted to take a break, and I thought I would go over and read some nonfiction. So, I read this book called Silence No More by Sarah Ransom, and it was a really good book. Now, the reason I started off with this book for the month of May is I was looking forward to another memoir coming out by an Epstein survivor. If you guys saw the video a couple months ago when I talked about Nobody's Girl by Virginia Giuffre, I honestly, I still don't know how to say her last name. I was always just saying it Guffrey in my head. But it was a very good book, excellent book. And there was another memoir that was supposed to come out in like April or May, and it got canceled. There was an Epstein survivor, her name's Juliet, and she was coming out with a memoir, and apparently she was getting all these threats about publishing it, and I suppose she didn't want to end up like another Virginia who gets on social media and says, "I am not suicidal. If I end up dead, I did not kill myself." And then she dies 6 months before publication of an apparent suicide. And I'm sure that's the reason why she canceled the publication of her book. But I discovered that there was this memoir by an Epstein survivor, and they do such a good job at burying things, don't they? Because I never knew about this book. I never heard of it. This one came out in 2021. And I didn't even hear about, when Virginia's memoir came out, I wasn't even aware of that book. I stumbled across it in a bookstore just completely by chance. I think I went down the wrong aisle because I hadn't really gone to the... There's a bookstore that I don't really like, a Books A Million in the mall here, and I just kind of like went down an aisle I normally don't go down, and then just kind of like the cover stuck out to me, and I was like, what's this? And that's how I found Nobody's Girl. And I was just really looking forward to the other memoir that's supposed to come out this year. And then I just started searching for some other memoirs by survivors. And I found this one. And it's just... I'm honestly not sure what all I could say about a memoir by an Epstein survivor. It's horrific. All the things that these women went through. And honestly, I would just say read the book. Honestly, I would say just go in blind. Go in blind into this book and Nobody's Girl as well. To Silence No More and Nobody's Girl. I would say if anybody's reading this that might only read like 1 or 2 books a year, I would say those are like the 1 or 2 books definitely that you should read this year. So that's Silence No More. And after that, you know what? I just couldn't help it. I ended up reading another Jim Thompson novel. I read Pop 1280. The reason I decided to read another Jim Thompson novel, well, I'm not quite sure, but this one in particular, I decided to read this one just because I read a couple that were like Jim Thompson's like lesser known books, and everybody kept praising this one. Now, the reason that I avoided Pop 1280 initially is that everybody kind of called it a remake of The Killer Inside Me. I heard people say it was like a remake, but like remade as a comedy. It's like a funny, goofy version. And it wasn't really it at all. I kept reading it, wondering, when does this exactly become like The Killer Inside Me? Both of the characters are sheriffs, but these stories couldn't be any more different. Now, this is definitely one of Jim Thompson's best. I would probably put it as like the 3rd best. Beneath The Killer Inside Me and The Getaway are like right up here, and I would say this one's like a little bit down below them, because the book just ends. It doesn't really have an ending. You could tell it's building towards something, and I don't know if Jim just had a deadline and he was like, all right, just take it, or I don't know if he was like, he just wrote himself into a corner and he's like, all right, I don't know how it ends. And so he was, I don't know if that's what happened, and he was like, it just ends, just take it. I really don't know, but it doesn't quite have an ending. It just stops. I almost expected to like find some little afterword that said like, the original ending to this book was lost, so enjoy what we have. Like, I don't know. I don't know why it just kind of ends. It does. And that's Pop 1280. It would be fantastic if it just had an ending. Next, oh my god, we've got this new book here from Michael Crichton called A Murder in Hollywood. So, Michael Crichton was very prolific, and he wrote a lot of novels that he didn't want to publish. I think there have been 3 or 4 now that his estate has published in the last 3 or 4 years, and they're coming out with these, and okay, this is how it goes. Writers often will write a few books where they get to the end and they're like, that wasn't so good, was it? And nobody needs to read this. I'm not going to publish it, but I'm going to keep it for myself. I put all this work in. I'm going to keep it if I ever want to revisit it. It's just something I did. It's very hard to write a novel and then be like, nah, I'll just click delete. Even if you don't publish it, you sort of, want to keep it. But then Michael Crichton's estate just sees all these as cash grabs. And anything that this man left behind, they are so eager to publish. I feel so bad for him. But this book was just absolute garbage, okay? The title was interesting. Oh, wow. Murder in Hollywood. I want to read this mystery. I want to know what the murder is. I was excited to read it. And I can't tell you enough how bad it was, okay? I'm sorry, Michael Crichton, my fellow Chicagoan, to talk about how bad your book was, but this book was not it, you guys. So, this book is a mystery, and it's written in first person, as mysteries often are. And normally, if it's in first person, it's written from the point of view of a detective, or perhaps even somebody that's deeply affected by this murder, by the crime, and somebody that's gonna spiral and go down the rabbit hole, and they're gonna try and get to the bottom of it. That's not it here. It's written in first person from the point of view of a publicist that's on the movie set for the movie happening in this book. And the only reason it does that is so that this person can explain to you what movie lingo means. As if this were a Clockwork Orange and we needed little explanations. I don't know. But it was just really distracting, and I don't really understand why he did that. I mean, I'm sure he wrote this a million years ago, when every writer starts out and they're not really good right off the bat. And I'm sure that's when this was written. And I just really don't get that. And then a detective is brought in. So it's this little movie set, I think, in somewhere in Arizona in the desert. So there's not a lot of people around, and it's kind of got cozy little town kind of vibes. And then a detective flies in to get to the bottom of it. And it's at this point where Michael Crichton kind of wants to follow the detective around. So the publicist, for no reason, just goes, hey, can I just follow you around for the lulz? And the guy goes, yeah, sure, come on while I do my detective work. And the bulk of the novel just becomes the guy going around, did you kill the guy? No, it wasn't me. All right. And then he just goes on to the next person. They have the same conversation over and over and over and over again. That's all that happens. I'm not even joking. It's like the George Costanza. No, nothing happens. That was A Murder in Hollywood, and it is just so boring. And I really have nothing good to say about this book. I read this book at my little sister's graduation. I had finished Pop 1280, and then I was like, you know what, I'm going to start this Michael Crichton book. And I don't know, I read the first chapter, and I was like, okay. And then the next day was my sister's graduation. I went down to her graduation downtown with her, and I had some time to kill, and I was reading, and then honestly all through the ceremony I was reading, and then they called her name, but there was still 2 hours left, so I just went outside the building, and I just sat down. I was just reading, and I read the whole thing, in one day basically, and I did not like it. I did not like it. It was awful. I will say at least it was well written. And it got me to thinking, okay, there's never been any lost novel or final novel or resurfaced novel that any of these estates try to cash grab on. There's never like, oh, the lost masterpiece by this. Like, you're never gonna find it. It's just never gonna exist. It's just never gonna happen. But when I read this, I was like, there's got to be one. There's got to be one. There just has to be one. And I thought, if there is one good like final novel that like that has resurfaced, maybe was completed by another author, I was like, if there's gonna be one, then maybe it would be Into the Night by Cornell Woolrich, completed by Lawrence Block. And I gotta say, this is the first time I absolutely hated a Cornell Woolrich novel. I've read at least a dozen of Cornell's books. I've loved the vast majority of them. There's only a couple that I didn't like, and even the ones that I didn't like still had plenty of enjoyment in it. This did not. Okay, the premise is actually very awesome, and I could see this working in a movie. It's, this girl is gonna kill herself, and then she decides not to, and she fires a gun, and it kills another woman. She tries to find out who this woman was, and things about her life. And my impression of this book was she's gonna kind of like right some wrongs, anything that was wrong in this girl's life, she's gonna get payback. And then it becomes a bunch of standing around talking. Like, she goes and finds like the girl's mother and pretends like that she knew the girl. Now, okay, I said before in one of my recent videos that, like, for instance, Psycho House, the third Psycho novel written right before Robert Bloch died, and he was like an old man, probably like 80, I don't know, and I was like, maybe he was like senile. Well, you know, Cornell wrote this towards the end of his life, and he only lived to be like 64, I think, so I don't know if he could have been senile at that time, but I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and just say like he was senile at that time, and that this is why it's so awful. So she tracks down like the girl's mother and just like has a little like conversation with her, and then the mother just randomly goes, "I know you didn't know my daughter, and it was you killed her." And then she's like, "All right, you know I killed her." And then they just both kind of like forget about it, and she just goes on, and it just becomes so convoluted. I normally do not speed read. I was speed reading this thing. Just I couldn't have finished it fast enough just because I wanted it to be over. I did not like it. I just really did not like it, and it really solidified for me that like any author that like died before like their final book could be complete and somebody else finishes it, or they had a book that they never published in their life, and they're like, yeah, this one's better off not published, and then the family, the estate's like, oh, well, we'll just publish it. He's dead now. We need more money. Like, it's never good. So after that, I was debating going back into a nonfiction kick, but I don't know. I read more fiction, and the next book I read sucked. I had like 3 really awful reads in a row, okay? So, I want to say this. So, I read that book and it was awful. And I probably should have just read a better Cornell Woolrich book, or I should have just grabbed another Jim Thompson book. I, for some reason, was just curious. And I was like, who is like the closest author to Cornell, or the closest author to Jim Thompson? And I did some searches, and the name David Goodis kept coming up. I've never read one of his books. I actually had one of them here, and I actually didn't even realize I had it. But I bought this, and I gotta say, okay, so this collected edition here has 3 books in it. I only read the first one, and that is Nightfall. And I hated it. I don't understand how anybody really could compare this story to Cornell or to Jim. This book, Nightfall, has so many good reviews, and I did not like it. The writing style, I will say, the actual writing style is better than most. The story, not so much. The writing style was good enough that I will give this guy another shot. I just don't know when. It was like really off-putting. Nothing quite made sense in this story. It's like a guy is on the run, but then he's not really on the run. He's like, I'm on the run. They can't find me. As he goes about his normal day and has been for months. And sometimes it'll cut away to like the world's worst detective who's like, yes, I've been watching this guy we're after for months, but I haven't arrested him for the lulz. And it was just like the dumbest, most brain dead, brainless like police work in this book. And just things happening for no reason. And the main character just randomly one day is like, I have memory loss, by the way. So I don't remember what I did with the money. So it's a good premise, actually. The main character is driving along one day, and he sees these guys that have had a car accident. They are bank robbers, and they take him hostage, and he sort of gets in on it. They've already robbed the bank, but then he tries to like get away with the money, and he kills somebody, and then he just conveniently is like, oh, I don't know what I did with this bag. I must have dropped it somewhere. I couldn't understand. I looked up some Goodreads reviews. I try not really to read reviews before I do these videos. I like to be like fresh with my own opinion, but I had to read some to see what did I miss, and there are so many people that love this book, Nightfall, and I just don't know why. It really was like one of the dumbest stories I ever read, and I just couldn't get over this duality because it's like such a stupid story but so well written. I was like oh my god, it's like it's like that meme of like not knowing like what button to press. Like David Goodis is like write a good story or write a bad story with good prose. I don't know. It was just, oh my god, I don't know. And I also want to talk about the publisher of this book, Starkhouse Noir Classics. Well, Starkhouse and the Noir Classics is this line. They gotta really... So, Starkhouse reprints a lot of out-of-print fiction, okay? But they gotta do a better job. The cover is hideous, the formatting job is hideous, and the paper they use is atrocious. It is bright white. If you guys can see that. It is bright white. And fiction is supposed to be printed on nice, like off-white, cream paper. It's easy on the eyes. When it's bright white like this, I couldn't read like more than like 5 pages at a time before my eyes just started hurting. I was like reading in the dark. I was like turning off the lights so that way it just wouldn't be like so bright on my eyes. I wanted to stop reading it several times, but I don't know. I just, you see, I was really hoping like it would just like really pick up, because like the first chapter or two, it is interesting, but then it just gets stupider as it goes on, and I was like, I don't know. I just kind of finished it. It was a slim book, but yeah, I just really wish that Starkhouse would actually like give a good presentation of these books, because like somebody like Hard Case Crime, they never skimp. Even if the book like this one isn't really a good story, like you get the beautiful painted cover, you get the cream pages, and the typesetting is nice, and the formatting, everything's beautiful. Like every book they publish, they might not all be winners, but they always look nice at the very least. Starkhouse, on the other hand, the formatting's terrible. I found at least 1, maybe 2 typos in here, and I hated the white pages. Next, we have Danse Macabre by Stephen King. So, this is a chunky book. It's over 400 pages, it looks like. And I tried reading this roughly a year ago. I don't think I got farther than chapter 2. The whole thing is like, okay, Grandpa, time for bed, the novel. Stephen King just rambles for the whole length of the book. And there's just something about like horror fans where they really think they're intellectuals. Now, I will give a pass to Uncle Stevie, because he definitely does branch out and reads much more than just horror and watches more than just horror, and I do believe he knows what he's talking about. The complete, like, vast majority, like, all of horror fans besides him, no, they don't really know what they're talking about. He does, and it's a very informative book, and definitely reading it, which actually, this counts as reading. I listened to the audiobook of this, especially when I was on the treadmill at the gym, okay? But reading this book, listening to it, whatever, there were definitely some books and movies that he mentions that I hadn't read before or seen before that I am interested in, but the whole thing is just like, he's just rambling, and I just really didn't get too much out of it. I mean, it's always like at least mildly interesting, but it's just, I don't know. I just really like, I don't know. I was just waiting for like some big revelation to hit while listening to this, and it just didn't. Yeah, so that was that. And then finally, after a streak of like awful books, we got back to good books. So I ended up reading The White Darkness by David Grann, which big mistake again with the white pages for me, reading 2 books back to back with white pages. But this one had an excuse because it's got like a billion photographs in it, and of course when you have all these photographs, you gotta print it on like the bright white, like very, like look at that, look how beautiful that is. Like like the very like nice pristine like pages. Beautiful book, although it does retail for $25. I think I got this for like $8, $9, $10 on Amazon. I would definitely say don't spend $25 on it because it is very short. And this is one of the very few books that I'm going to say I wish was longer. So, David Grann tells us about Ernest Shackleton and this gentleman Henry Worsley. So, Shackleton wanted to be the first guy to reach the South Pole, and then he didn't accomplish that. And then he wanted to cross the South Pole, and it didn't work out. And then this gentleman Henry Worsley, he recreated the expedition something like 100 years later, and he achieved it with some descendants of some of Ernest Shackleton's men who were on the crew with him. And then he decides years later, he's like, I did it, and now I want to do it alone. So then we get a lot of stuff where this gentleman crosses Antarctica alone, and it is so interesting. Oh my god, I really wish this book was like double the size. That's like my one complaint about this, is it is so short. And this should also be a movie. I think it would actually be excellent. And then I ended with A Clockwork Orange because I wanted something pretty thin. I had a few days left in the month, and this book's 212 pages. I don't know if I could really say anything about A Clockwork Orange that hasn't already been said. It is very dreamy when you read it. It's very like magical, and it's something you sort of feel from page 1 right when you start this book. The slang in the book, and how do I even want to like talk about the slang? I don't really know. It's just like so strange because like there'll be all these words that you don't know, but you try to like fit it in that context, and then sometimes like the same word will be used in like different contexts, and I don't know, it just like really like it's engaging. It just really pulls you in, and I really liked it. And then I found myself like slipping the words into conversation. I was like, yeah, it really like Slushy's my Gulliver. I don't know. So all right guys, that was the month of May. I know it really wasn't my best roundup, was it? You know, Silence No More was awesome. Pop 1280 was awesome. And then, geez, 1, 2, 3, like 4 books in a row I did not care for. And then we ended it with 2 awesome books. So, that was my month of May, guys. And I'm definitely going to be jumping back over to Jim Thompson again for June. So we've at least got some Jim Thompson coming. I don't know what else, because I don't normally, you know, plan ahead. But I just know kind of when I'm at the end of the month, like what I'm going to read next. I already have something in mind. So I'll be reading at least one more Jim Thompson book, and then we'll see. So that was all for this video, guys. Thanks for watching.